Here's the thing that I see with small business owners when it comes to working in their small business. You guys think that you need to put a ton of time and a ton of hours into your business to grow the ways that you want to, but that is so untrue. Last year in my small business, I put $1.2 million into my business while only working 3 days a week and 90 minutes a day. I have ran that system for the past 6 years, even as I owned 2 different businesses. So today, in this episode, I'm going to give you the process that I teach inside of the CEO Clubhouse that is going to help you earn more and work less so that you can stop wasting your time while you're accomplishing very little. Now, today we're going to walk through 4 different systems that serve 4 different purposes. And the way that I came about this system is both a hilarious story, but also a kind of sad story. But I need to give you that context because I think a lot of us as small business owners, we fall into very similar patterns. Now, a few years ago, I was coming home from reffing a university basketball game. It was super late in the night, and usually when I walk in the house that late at night, my dog Tucker would be waiting at the top of the stairs, tail wagging. You know how it is when you get home and your dog is just super excited to see you. But when I came in the house that day, Tucker was not there, and it was just super weird. And so as I walked up the stairs, my husband and my stepdaughter were sitting on the couch, and she had her phone pointed up at me, which, you know, when a teenager is doing that, it alludes to something is going on. And so right away, I knew something was up. And I go, "Hey, where's Tucker?" And Mark, my husband, points at the couch, which is our dog couch, and squished into the couch was this tiny little baby chocolate Labrador puppy. On any other given day, that would have been the best thing because I had been, subconsciously begging him for a second dog for many, many years. But at that moment in time, that was a very unwelcomed surprise. And so when him and his daughter were anticipating that I was going to have this big excitement, the first things out of my mouth were, "Whose fucking dog is that?" And that was simply because I was in the middle of my referee season. My business was requiring a ton of my time. And I knew that my life was about to change because I was the one who was going to have to look after this baby puppy. And to top it all off, in 3 weeks' time, we were headed to Arizona for holidays. That is impossible with a brand new baby puppy. So my world started spinning. A couple of weeks later, my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer, and that completely flipped my world upside down. With a business that was requiring a shit ton of my time, I didn't have a lot of time, but I still needed to work in a way that would grow my business in a very compressed amount of time because that was all that I had unknowingly as I was going to spend the next 47 days back and forth every single day, a 2-hour drive to our hospital where my dad was having brain surgery. Now, as terrible as that story is, it was a very pivotal moment in my entrepreneurial career because it forced me to compress time and maximize the output. And what I realized in that moment is that society tells us we need to sit down and spend 8 hours a day or more as an entrepreneur, 10, 14-hour days, because there are always things to do and always things that require our attention. And if we want to grow to a certain level, we have to put in the time. But that is absolutely not true, because what I came to realize was that within that 8 hours, we are actually putting out a small amount of focused attention. And so therefore, the output that we're putting out in that 8 hours would be the same amount if we just compress time with a greater intensity of focus. Pair that with you as an entrepreneur and a small business owner struggle with time. You think your struggle is because you don't have enough time. But the problem is not having enough time. It's not knowing what to do with the time that you do have or the time that you do make. And so what I did in that really pivotal time of my life, chaotic time of my life, was come up with a 4-tier system. One that kept me on track to know exactly what I needed to focus on. One that helped me build some consistent habits and routines, because at the end of the day, if I couldn't stay consistent with what I was doing, none of it made sense. It helped me build the organization to each of my days. And then the last thing is it gave me a little bit of discipline and understood what was a priority when it came to actually growing my business. And so I'm going to walk you guys through each of those 4 systems that I developed that actually stack upon each other. And they are actually systems that I now teach within the CEO Clubhouse, my flagship mentorship program. Now, let me back up a step. If that is interesting to you and you think that this is something that can really benefit you, I talk about how to free up your time and build your business around your lifestyle all the time on my daily emails that go out. So if you just click down below for daily CEO thoughts and jump in with over 11,000 other small business owners, I'll drop you a 2-minute read in your inbox every day. And hopefully you can take some gold and apply it into your business. Okay. Let's get down to work. Now, there are 4 systems that we need to look at today. Let me just back up here. I'm a talker in a jar, so you got to deal with me. The very first thing we need to establish is, what am I actually working on? Because in my experience of my own entrepreneurial journey of being a business owner for 18 years, but also working with hundreds of small business owners across the service industry spectrum, the biggest constraint is they don't know what they need to be doing. And so I work in 6-week bouts, and I call this my 6-week game plan. The reason I do this is because 6 weeks feels like enough of a small amount enough of time to stay focused on one thing, and enough time that I'm not going to get bored and get attracted to all the shiny objects that are going around. It's enough time to finish a project, build some momentum, take a little bit of a break, be fired up to hit another 6-week cycle, and repeat that consistently throughout the year. Okay. On top of that, so once you know what you need to be working on, I use a system called the Dirty 30. Now, this is 5 days of the week for 6 weeks, so 30 days, that helps me break down on a daily basis the different tasks or the different things that I need to be doing from every part of my life. So personal, business, family, like just taking care of myself as a human being. Because if I can keep track on a consistent daily basis that I am doing essentially what I call the minimum dose requirement of what I need to do, that's going to help me build little bits and doses of momentum. And when you can do that on a daily basis over and over again, that is going to keep you always rolling forward. Okay. And so I'll walk you through exactly what my Dirty 30 checklist looks like. From there, I go win the week, because every day or every week, we sit down on a Monday, and the very first thing we do is we pull open our calendar and we start reacting to everything that is on our calendar. But what I do is on a Sunday, the time it takes me to drink my coffee, I map out what were the good stuff from last week, what do I have to look ahead this week, and what are my main priorities? And I'll walk you through exactly what that system looks like too. And so now I've taken this overall plan of what I need to be working on, taking care of myself on a daily basis consistently, getting organized with some of the things that are important to take care of this week, which brings me back to the absolute small focused dose of time within each day that I'm going to use to work on my business. And I call this my CEO blocks. It's one thing to block time. We all know that is something we need to do as business owners, but 99% of you guys are doing it wrong, or you're not doing it in an efficient way that works for you and what you need your lifestyle to be. And the best part about what I'm going to outline for you guys today is, I've recorded multiple videos on CEO blocks. So if you just scroll through my YouTube channel, you'll find many different videos working through that system. But B, I have used this template myself for 6 years. This system alone, like this top of the pyramid, is the thing that helped me navigate brand new baby Finn coming into our family, the baby chocolate lab at the beginning of this video, and my dad getting diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer, and my family needing every extra minute of my day instead of my business. Okay. So if you take anything away from today, it's going to be that part, but I want to show you how the blocks stack upon each other. Now, let's start with the 6-week game plan. This gives us focus. What is the very next thing that I need to be working on? And so the 6-week game plan that we run within our CEO Clubhouse really stems from one main thing, and that's called our perfect day plan. Now, this is one of the very first steps that we do, because if we're going to build our business around our life, we need to know like what are kind of the guardrails that we're working within. And once I know that, every decision that I make within my business is either going to take me closer to that perfect day plan or it's going to pull me away from. And so knowing that, I know exactly what I want my overall sort of like bigger themes of my business to look like. But then I can do an assessment on a 6-week cadence of, okay, here's the things I need to take care of in my marketing. Here's the things that need to happen when it comes to our sales process. Here's the thing that needs to come to when I think about delivery or how my client, like the results that my clients are getting. And then my time. What is going on with my time in the business? Do I need to make more hires? There's a particular cadence I need to attack these things. There's a particular audit system that I'm going to look at that helps us evaluate the different, checkpoints that need to happen to keep the system moving. And all I need to do is find which is the one that's kind of operating at a red zone, or maybe I'm green check marks through all my marketing series, but then I find out that, oh, hey, the first red thing appears on my delivery aspect of my business. And so for the next 6 weeks, the only thing I'm going to work on is that one project. And I'm going to break that down into minuscule projects, and I'll cover that in a second. But that way, if I know that I just need to move through and green check mark these things, that if I do that on a consistent 6-week cycle, there's absolutely no reason why at the end of the year, I won't look back and see that I have increased revenue in my business. I've increased client count. I've increased my retention rate. My clients are sticking around longer. My team is happier. And most importantly, I've gained back my time. So this 6-week cycle helps us stay on track and always moving forward, but never leaves me wondering, what should I be working on next? Okay. So 6-week game plan gives us focus. Once I know what my next right thing is or what my next right project is, then I'm going to start to work on building out my Dirty 30 checklist for the next 6 weeks. And as I mentioned, the thing that this gives us is habits and routines, because the more consistent I can execute on those daily tasks, the better, the more momentum I'm going to accumulate. But then the more areas of my life I am going to stay on top of. I can tell you first and foremost that when my dad got sick, the very first thing that started to go was just looking after myself, because my family needed me, my business needed me. It was everything I could give of myself to everyone and everything else around me. And so being able to trickle myself back in and say, no, on the daily basis, these are the minimum dose requirements that I need to do for these different aspects of my life, helps me just stay afloat, helps me stay consistent. Okay. And so when I think about the Dirty 30, this is what it looks like. And honestly, I'm going to pop up a screenshot for you, but I'll walk you through what our system operates like. So if it were divided into the different areas that I want to stay on track of, and remember, ultimately you set these boundaries. These are some boundaries that we use within the CEO Clubhouse. The first one is you, right? So this might be like, okay, well, I've got to work out. I might want to walk like 10,000 steps because that might be hard given the season of life I'm in. Maybe it's like, I got to track my food because I just, need to make sure I'm eating, but I just need to feel healthier, get healthier, whatever that might look like for you. Okay. Then it comes down to business stuff. And so what are the sort of consistent things that I need to do from a marketing perspective? Well, I need to message 10 leads. I need to put up my social post. I need to send my email for the day. Those are like my 3 things, right? And then I'm going to look at my sales process. I need to follow up with any conversations that maybe didn't go anywhere. I need to process some payments. Maybe I need to do some renewals with my current clients. I just need to look through that process, what that might look like. Okay. And then we have a choice. There might be some client delivery things I need to look at, or I might have like some bigger projects that aren't necessarily a daily thing, but these are things that I do need to allocate some time to. And so there's going to be particular steps that I might want to break down over that. The goal on this process is basically to acquire as many, we've gamified it, as many experience points as possible. And when I can consistently get daily check marks on the things that I have set out for myself, if we can achieve 85% adherence, for a lack of better words, to this Dirty 30 process, then I know at the end of 6 weeks that I am going to have an excellent outcome, okay? And the simple reason is just because I have some structure and some consistent output on my daily habits and routines. Now, this isn't a business application, but I used to be a gym owner. We ran this exact same process in how we helped people with their lifestyle, their fitness, and their health. This 85% is 18 years of watching people move through habits and routines of different types. I can confidently say with our data that we've collected from our clients and my data I've collected over the last 18 years, that if on a daily basis you can achieve an 85% completion rate, both on the day and at the end of the week and the end of the 6 weeks, you are going to be miles ahead than if you just tried to wing it and get nowhere ahead. So this is what we call our Dirty 30. And actually, what I'm going to do is just drop a screenshot of what our system looks like inside of our app that we use with our CEO Clubhouse clients, because I think that this is actually a really important step that often gets overlooked. And so this is what it looks like. And this is a really exciting part of what our clients are building and working towards. Now, when I take you back to our pyramid, the next part of the process is what I do on a weekly basis. How do I win the week? So I've got what I need to work on, the daily habits and routines that I'm building. And then I get into win the week, which is about organization. And I know you have this problem because I had this problem. Sometimes I still do. Like I said, you get to Monday and you're like, what the heck do I need to work on? You pull up your calendar, you're reacting to your calendar. This is about taking ownership, being proactive, and controlling what happens within your week. And so we call this winning the week. The very first thing that we need to do is just simply take stock. Okay. So the first step is review. What were the wins? Like, what were the things that went well last week? And more importantly, why? It's one thing to celebrate the wins, but it's a whole other thing to recognize why. Obviously, you were doing some things good last week. Acknowledge that, these things happened because I did XYZ. Then I want to look through, what did I learn? Because some things might have not gone your way, or maybe some things did. And so I want to be able to say, okay, I picked up these 2 particular lessons last week, and I'm just going to archive them and acknowledge them. And the next thing is like, what excites you about this coming week, this week that's right in front of you? Because we always want to end on a positive note, first of all. But secondly, just see the positive in what is ahead of us, because a lot of us are busy. You're going to pull open your calendar and immediately be overwhelmed by all of the stuff on your calendar. And so just to take a minute and say, yeah, this is happening and this is actually really exciting to me, that's a super powerful thing. And so that's kind of step 1C, is acknowledge what is coming ahead of you that is exciting to you. Next thing is preview. So when I look through the stuff that is on my calendar this week, the first thing I need to take account for is projects. More importantly, my 6-week game plan projects. What is the big chunk? Okay. And I'm going to write that down because that's an important thing. I'm not trying to complete the whole project in that week. I just want to complete a chunk of that project. And so I want to take stock of that project, and I'm going to write down steps 1 to 3 that I need to take this week. Maybe it's just 1. Maybe your week is super busy. And so if you get 1 step of that process done, that's a huge win for you. Fantastic. But we do want to map that out. Okay. If there's anything else on your calendar that is important to preview, maybe you need to prepare for some meetings, or you need to prepare for some client conversations you're going to have, that would fall under this too. Now, the last step under your win the week is, what are the priorities? Now, when I say this, most people think that when I say priorities, it's like your business priorities. But to me, my life priorities go on here first. So it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to get my workouts in. I'm going to go for a bike ride. I'm going to make sure that I spend some time with Finn and with Mark. Okay, some family time. I want to make sure that I book our Airbnb for a trip we're doing, whatever it might be. Like, these are the priorities that I have that are relative to my life. And then from there, the priorities in my business come second. And I do want to take stock of what is important to me to finish or do this week within my business. And it might be like, okay, cool. I want to plan out my email sequence or something like that. I want to make sure I get this YouTube episode up maybe. Okay. Just to be able to sit down and organize what is going to happen in your week makes you feel way more calmer and prepared for how you delegate your time this week versus if I just sit down on Monday and I react to what my calendar says. And so our win the week system actually gives us a ton of organization, which brings me to the last part of the process. And that is about our CEO blocks. And this is ultimately what gives me discipline, okay, and priority. Because if I am going to compress time, I can't sit down with the inclination that I am going to build my business and part of my French and fuck around for 90 minutes, okay? This became the ultimate teaching part of my, when I came up with these systems for myself, because I learned just that lesson. That just because I have allocated some time on my calendar to build my business, I need to know exactly what are the minimum dose requirements. What are the absolute minimum things I need to do to make sure that I have taken action to grow my business that day? I'm going to make a very important point because this is where the system goes wrong. Everybody has a to-do list. When I say minimum dose requirement of things that will grow your business, I do not mean your to-do list. So your to-do list is stuff like pay the bills, answer emails, it might be like train staff. All of these things that exist on your to-do list, they have boxes next to them that get check marks. That means once they're done, they're done. That's why they exist on a to-do list. But the difference between what you put into your CEO block are stuff that are repeatable and consistent. That means they're the same day in and day out. They may change slightly, but the degree of what you're working on is exactly the same every single day. And so in order to teach this, there are two main areas of your business that you need to make sure you touch on a daily basis. And it doesn't matter what kind of small business you run. And the first one is your marketing, and the second one is your sales. Now, how you divide those two up is entirely up to you and the project that you're working on. But for the majority of us, there are some common occurrences that need to happen. And so when I look marketing, it might be like I said, message 10 leads, put up my social post, write my email for the day. When my dad was sick, that was literally my quote to-do list. That was the minimum dose requirement that I did when it came to taking care of my marketing for that day. That was as much time as I had. And I knew that if I did these things, it would move my business forward even 1%. On the flip side of that, then I looked at sales. And so for sales, it might be like follow up with 5 leads, like super hot leads. It might be follow up with, the consult that didn't buy yesterday. It might be message this person that reached out to you and wanted to take the next step. There's all different kinds of things that can fall under each of these categories. But the main thing is that they are repeatable on a daily basis. They do not change. It might change slightly, but for the majority of us, they're day in, day out. And if I can go through this as the minimum dose requirements in my day, then I don't need 8 hours to tackle this stuff. I need max 90 minutes to take the minimum dose requirements to grow my business and move my business forward. And that's what keeps us on the discipline and the priority to always be growing the business without needing 8 hours to do it. The win the week keeps us organized about where our focus is going, what is important and prioritized this week. The Dirty 30 system gives us the habits and the routines to stay on top and keep building small doses of momentum, with the ultimate 6-week game plan giving us that next piece of focus and project to put my horse blinders on and keep my shoulders focused and pointing in the right direction. This system came because my dad got sick. This system came because I now had a puppy that I didn't have time for and all these things moving around us. You can change my storyline variables with anything. I work with a lot of business owners who are parents, who have kids. Kids will keep you busy. You want to be at home and spending time with your kids. That's awesome. I get it. This is how we confine that time and our output to make sure that our business continues to grow while we go and do these other things that our life requires, like spend some time with our kids, pick them up from their activities, or simply just be home because you want to be home. We don't even need this external time pressure. We can just use this to be a better and more efficient business owner. Listen, building small businesses without having to pour a ton of time, building small businesses around your life, this is the stuff that I nerd out and I geek out about. I've done a ton of episodes and a ton of podcast episodes on these very topics. I talk about them almost daily on my Instagram and in my daily CEO Thoughts emails. This is what the CEO Clubhouse builds, is this system, this pyramid, to help you go from scattered, undecisive, unfocused, undisciplined, completely confused and disorientated, not growing, to being ultimately in control, super focused, super time efficient, and most importantly, doing the actual shit that you want to be doing in your real life. If this is up your alley and you want the full blueprint of what the rest of your business needs to look like in order to support these two systems, or what you would be working on within these four systems, just click down below. The first video of a 5-part mini-series is the roadmap to 30K months working 3 days a week and 90 minutes a day. It's the exact same roadmap that I used in both of my small businesses over the last 18 years. Listen, I hope this has been useful. I hope there's been a nugget of gold that you can take away from this. I get super nerdy about this because this is ultimately why I became an entrepreneur and what I want to help other small business owners do. I'll catch you next week.